MySpace and used this popularity to launch.
And I met Davi in Orlando at a Jeffree Star concert. And let's see. Well, after that, pretty much just happened. I started helping out with the Diamond album, and then after that, we collabed lately, and now we're having, we've had our singles, Miss Bipolar, Scream for My Ice Cream, we had that EP, and then the Ice Cream EP, and then we're working on our new album, OMFG, which is our tour that we're actually coming up with very soon. It's our first headlining tour, so haters, thank you. Because love you, money, thank you.
Let's pause it. Let's go cook out. I'll see you guys when I'm at home. See you then. Well, here we are. Back at the place. Open the garage. Park it. Shit. Here. Close it. Go into the garage for a second. Unlock it again. Park it here. Lock it back up. Let's go to upstairs. You know, to the usual. Press play.
I'm fucking right now. I'm fucking your dad right now.
The duo would prove to be quite successful, with them releasing one album and 3 EPs before embarking on a tour to promote a third album. Although I don't know why people would want to see them live, since from what I've been able to find, their performances basically consisted of Davi very poorly attempting to rap and sing, while Garrett just screamed over him. Happened immediately after Davi had attempted the same act on 16-year-old Ariel Klein in his car.
Did you have any idea that this was coming, or?
No, I mean, and honestly, it happened over the course of about 45 seconds, where we were walking along the strip, and suddenly this had happened. I mean, I couldn't even process what was happening as fast as it was happening.
You must have just been in shock.
I was definitely in shock. Looking back on it directly afterwards, I did definitely have some signs that I was probably about to pass out, which, I mean, obviously things wouldn't have gotten better from there, so I'm glad I didn't.
When you say you're about to pass out, was that just because you're in shock from what had happened, what he had done to you?
Yeah, I mean, directly afterwards, I mean, my brain was trying its hardest to process that, but that's not something that it processes well.
What did Davi Vanity say to you after the act?
What he said to me is something I will never forget. I think it scarred me beyond what I could convey here. He said, "That was so good, baby girl. You made me feel so good."
That was so good, baby girl.
Yeah, and I think the part that bothered me the most was that he said, "You made me feel so good."
And you didn't do anything except be there when he forced himself upon you, is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, there was no participation on my part.
Davi was briefly jailed following this, but was bailed out by his father. He was unable to complete the rest of the tour, however, leaving Garrett Ecstasy to finish it on his own. This was not the first time Davi had been accused of sexual assault. In June 2007, 14-year-old Diana Farrell called into a Christian radio show to ask the host, Dawson McAllister, for advice. When McAllister asked what was wrong, she told him about the man who had assaulted her at her home 8 days earlier. After Farrell revealed what had happened, one of the staff members of the radio station called the police. Farrell would explain to the police that she had met Davi through MySpace and that he had come to her house to style her hair for her. After finishing working on her hair, Davi immediately forced himself on her. Farrell's parents didn't press charges under the condition that he cut off contact with their daughter. This incident, along with the two in September 12, 2009, would be far from the last that Davi would be accused of. Following the 2009 tour, Garrett Ecstasy was either fired from the band or left due to not wanting to work with someone like Davi. Either way, he was replaced that same year by 18-year-old Jeremy Bryan Griffiths, who would go by the stage name Javon Monroe, thus creating the band's most recognisable lineup. I've noticed that Davi always seemed to have a tall, good-looking sideman who contrasted himself, a rather short, overweight and not particularly good-looking weirdo. Perhaps he did this to make the group more appealing to their female fanbase. From 2010 onwards, the group would see its biggest success, and with this success came a slew of ranting channels on YouTube who would make videos criticising the band's quite frankly awful music, much to the anger of Blood on the Dance Floor's notoriously toxic fanbase, who would often respond to these videos by leaving hateful comments that usually included death threats. Of course, these comments were usually compiled into videos of people laughing at how ridiculous and over the top these teenagers were being. On July 10th, 2010, we would see just how harsh and cruel the Blood on the Dance Floor fanbase could be when it came to defending Davi Vanity, when a post was made on the website Sticky Drama, in which the then 11-year-old Jessica Leonhardt was named as an underage girl that Davi had recently engaged in sexual acts with. Rather than condemn Davi, however, the forum instead focused all of its outrage on Jessica. Jessica responded to the post, saying that she and Davi were only friends. Davi was 26 at this time, by the way, just so we're clear on the age gap between the two. After making a video addressing the hate she was getting from the Blood on the Dance Floor fans, she later received harassment from 4chan, which got so bad that she uploaded the infamous video of her and her father addressing the trolls.
I'm gonna tell you right now, this is from her father. Consequences.
It is ruining my life.
That's look.
I'm saying sorry for everything that I've done. I feel really bad about it now. I'm in foster care. I have been locked up in mental institutions, and just like you done said, I do have to go to counseling now and everything, but it's not because of you. So, I'm really sorry for everything that I've done. I'm sorry for accusing you of rape and everything. I know that all has happened. And I'm having this recorded by Oriana because I have no computer privileges now because of foster. And why am I talking with my hands? I'm truly sorry for everything that I've done, and I love BOTDF for basically all the CDs that I have for BOTDF now, so saying that I'm sorry and everything, and I love you guys to death. I mean, Jay's my idol, Dobby's my idol, and Sally inspired this. I shaved it off my head. So, yeah, love you guys. Sorry.
She wouldn't be seen again until 2018, when she would
Pause it. Head to bed, head to work. Know that work. Good night. Good night, wife. Head to bed. 6 in the morning. Time to head to work. Gang. I know that work. Walk it. Park over here. Go over here. I'll see you guys when I'm at work. See you then. Bye. Let's go to the backstage now and fucking put on the clothes and cook in yo. Why not? I'll see you when I'm at the backstage, I guess. See you then. Well, here we are at the backstage. Let's go cooking, you know. Why not, dude? Put on the uniform, cooking. You know, the usual. Just a regular day at work. What's cooking? There we are. Let's go up here and put in the uniform. I'll see you when I have the uniform on. Getting out of character for a second. As you can see, no jobs here, so I can't actually put on the uniform here right now. So let's pretend, you know, uniform is on. You know what I mean. 3, 2, 1, action. Let's go fucking do some work. Yo. I'll see ya when I'm at the actual park. See that? I'm talking out of character for a second. Look here. Now. See? Okay, 3, 2, 1, action. Okay, let's go to work. Another job. Another day at my fucking job. Here we are. How can I help you? Alright. Okay, cool. You would like... Okay, change order. It's too fucking slow. You like... 1, 2, yeah. Well, like I said, I'll see you when I'm on my break. Nothing special. Hey, can you handle it for me? Sure, no problem, French. I'm gonna go on my break. Let's go to over here. Smoke a blunt today and watch YouTube. Press play.
But finally confirmed that the allegations of what Davi did to her were in fact true. Despite Davi's best efforts to convince people that the allegations against him were all lies, he quickly became far more well known as a predator than a musician. Even Jeffree Star, who these days is well known as a YouTuber, but at that time was actually a fairly popular scene artist, publicly accused Davi of being a predator on Twitter. Unfortunately, Blood on the Dance Floor's fanbase remained as vocal as ever, and continued to support the group. The band's detractors, however, began analysing the group's lyrics, and how it was obviously very suspicious that a man like Davi, who had all of these allegations against him, would have so many songs revolving around sexual themes. Davi wrote all of these songs knowing full well that his fanbase was made up mostly of underage girls. Around the same time, videos began to surface of Davi just generally being creepy and inappropriate towards his fans, while they were obviously too young and starstruck to realise what he was doing.
Video? Yeah, video.
Oh my god.
Are we gonna make a porno or something?
Yes.
Give me your bras right now. Give it to me. Give me all your bras. I want them all. Give me your bras right now. I want your bras. You see this thing? Give them to me right the fuck now. Don't be a prude. Don't be a prude.
Up to be what sparked the repeated bad press the event gets for basically being a playground for predators. During this time, Davi worked with 2 more women who would later accuse him of assault. Lady No Grady, who appeared on the group's biggest hit, Bewitched, alleged that Davi made several unwanted advances towards her, but because she, in her own words, stood up to him immediately, he was apparently too intimidated to go any further in his advances, and instead backed down, showing that he only targets women and girls who he believes won't put up a fight. The second woman was New Year's Day vocalist Ash Costello, who alleged that Davi had attempted to strangle her on a Halloween night and tried to play it off as a joke. One of New Year's Day's merch workers, Daniel Rodriguez, also alleged that Costello had told Davi repeatedly not to touch her, but he ignored her and would continue doing so, even doing it on stage during performances. Rodriguez also claimed that he would often see underage girls getting on and off Blood on the Dance Floor's tour bus. With all of the bad press surrounding Davi, it would seem that it became too much for Javon Monroe to handle, and he left the band in 2016, and would later accuse Davi of being abusive towards him as well, saying that Davi was incredibly controlling, preventing him from contacting his family, and also withholding his HIV medication. Following his departure, the band would split up, and Davi would recruit his then fiancée Fallon Vendetta to be his new sidekick in the band. But this would last only a year, as Fallon left the band and later came out and also accused him of abuse. Miss Hansen launched an investigation into Davi in 2020 and interviewed a number of his victims. Following this, many more women came out and accused Davi of assault, with the count eventually reaching 21 women, with many of them going into detail about how cruel and violent Davi can be. Unfortunately, Davi is currently the only musician on this list who is still walking free as of this video. He doesn't seem to have changed at all, as he's reportedly still talking to underage girls online. Most of his fans from back in Blood on the Dance Floor's heyday appear to have moved on due to simply outgrowing the band, and because they've realised that the man they supported for so long was a sexual predator who only viewed all of them as objects and toys to be used for his sick, depraved games. Darby's catchphrase back in the early 2010s was, "Haters make us famous." Of course, the hate towards the band stopped being about their music and more towards the band's predatory lead singer. Darby is still releasing music today under various different names and frequently posts on his Instagram. Mostly he posts photographs riddled with filters that change his appearance to the point that he looks almost like an alien or something. He also still wears his wigs all the time, despite the fact that he's been photographed without one, which shows that he's now completely bald. Darby has basically been a joke for the better part of a decade now, but the internet now sees him for what he really is, a cruel and manipulative monster who we can only hope that will eventually be brought to justice and sent to prison where he belongs.
Here's a tip for free. Download the Sportsbet app. It's got everything you need to make betting easy, including same race multi. Combine multiple runners in the same race for bigger odds. Also, just get your tips from me. I am on fire at the moment.
Play us responsibly with Sportsbet. Michael Myers is ready to rush every time I call Manson and all of your friends are friends. Let's go.
Anton Singleton, better known by his stage name, Big Lurch, is a former rapper who was active in the Bay Area of California between 1996 and 2002. Growing up in Dallas, Texas, Singleton displayed his skills as a writer from an early age, as he began writing poetry when he was only 7 years old. At the age of 17, after having moved to San Francisco, he decided he wanted to take his skills as a poet and transfer them over to a career as a rapper, and took the stage name Big Lurch after the Addams family's towering butler of the same name. Being 6'7" himself, the name seemed very appropriate. In 1996, he co-founded the hip-hop group Cosmic Slopshop alongside Marvin Dooney Baby Selman and Rick Rock, who'd previously worked as a producer on Tupac's final album, All Eyes on Me. Though the group saw minor success with the single Sinful, they released only one album, which performed poorly commercially, and the group split in 1998. On September 16, 2000, one day after his 24th birthday, Singleton was struck by a drunk driver and suffered a broken neck. He spent a long time in the hospital and was heavily medicated due to the constant pain he was in. Unfortunately, the pain continued after he returned home, and as he didn't have access to large amounts of legal pain medication, he turned to the illegal drug PCP for pain management. The drug obviously had an effect on his mind, with him developing a borderline obsession with the occult and horror films. This manifested itself in his writing, with him switching to a subgenre of hip-hop known as horrorcore, which centers around the occult, the supernatural, and psychological themes. Singleton's PCP use grew worse as time went on. He would get high and stay that way for weeks on end, sometimes neglecting to even eat. His mental state became worse, and he would become more and more delusional. This would come to a head in April of 2002. On April 10th, the Los Angeles police were called when Singleton was seen standing naked in the middle of the street, all covered in blood, staring at the sky and holding a human lung in his hand. When the police arrested him, they found that the lung he was holding had been partially eaten. The person who called the police was a friend of Singleton's, who had gone to his apartment to find a truly shocking scene. The body of Singleton's roommate, Tanisha Yasai, was laying on the ground. Her chest had been torn open, with both of her lungs removed. She had teeth marks on her face, and a 3-inch blade was embedded in her shoulder. After his arrest, the police performed a medical examination on Singleton's stomach and found human flesh that was not his own. Tanisha Yasai's boyfriend confirmed that he and Singleton had done PCP the day of the murder, which clearly caused the latter to go into a blind rage, leading to him brutally murdering Yasai and consuming her flesh. At his trial, Singleton pleaded insanity, with his defense saying that he was in a psychotic state due to his use of PCP on the night of the murder. However, the court ruled that his drug use and his claim of insanity were not satisfactory reasons for committing the murder. The district attorney concluded that drug use could not be used for an insanity plea. The judge agreed, and Singleton was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Tanisha Yasai's mother filed a wrongful death lawsuit in 2003 against Singleton, his bodyguard, Stress Free Records, Death Row Records, and Yasai's boyfriend. The suit charged that the labels had provided Singleton with drugs to, quote, encourage him to act out in an extreme violent manner so as to make him more marketable as a gangster rap artist. Part of what makes a gangster rap artist marketable is the fact that the artist is a participant in violent activities, the lawsuit claimed. Death Row protested, saying that it had no connection to Singleton and was dropped from the lawsuit. Singleton's only studio album, It's All Bad, was released in 2004, 1 year after he was sentenced. And, in all honesty, most talented person on this list, Robert Sylvester Kelly is one of the most successful R&B singer-songwriters in history, with a career that spanned 30 years. Born in Chicago in 1967, Robert began singing in his church choir when he was 8 years old, and it was here that his gift for singing first became apparent. It was also in his 8th year where he would experience tragedy for the first time in his life, when his then-girlfriend named Lulu fell into a river and drowned. It was also around this time that he apparently became the victim of sexual abuse at the hands of an unnamed female family member, which he claims went on until he was 14 years old. He also claims to have been abused by a male family friend and never told anyone as he thought no one would believe him. The abuse apparently caused him to attempt to end his life when he was only 11. Things would improve for him in high school, however, as he won a talent show with the performance of Stevie Wonder's Ribbon in the Sky and was encouraged by his music teacher to give up a possible career in basketball to pursue a career in music. His career began in 1989 when he formed the new jack swing group MGM and released the single Why You Wanna Play Me.
They say that you don't love me. They can tell by the way you play me to the line. Wanna drive me by Mercedes and wear my gold chains round your neck. Well, I'm certainly not having it.
After signing with the independent label Tab Dash Records, the group appeared on the televised talent show Big Break, which brought Kelly to national attention and also led to him winning the $100,000 grand prize. However, despite winning the contest, the group split up not long after. Kelly would then start another group called Public Announcement, and with them would release one album, Born into the 90s. While the album itself was not a big hit, failing to break the Billboard Top 40, it did produce the successful single She's Got That Vibe. The interesting thing about this song is that most people will have only heard the single version. The full album version contains one line that was actually the first sign of what kind of person R. Kelly was behind the scenes. We'll come back to this in a bit. In 1990,
Let's pause it. Go back to work. I guess I'll see you when I'm on my bike again. Well, I'm going on my bike. You know what I mean. See you then. Oh, hey. Can you handle it? I'm gonna take 5. Oh, good. Go ahead. Cool. Let's go to over here. Let's go to over here will do. Press play, have bond.
1993, Kelly released his first solo album, 12 Play, which would become a huge success for him, reaching number 2 on the Billboard Top 100 and spawning the hit single Bump and Grind, which spent 12 weeks at number 1. This album obviously made him a megastar in the US and led to many artists wanting to work with him. This included a young aspiring singer named Aaliyah Horton. The two had met in 1992 after being introduced by Aaliyah's uncle, record producer and founder of Blackground Records, Barry Hankerson. Taking Aaliyah under his wing, the two began working on her debut album, Age Ain't Nothing But a Number, in 1993. This album was basically an R. Kelly album in all but name, as he wrote all but one of the songs on it, produced the album, frequently provides guest vocals throughout, and even appears out of focus on the album cover. During the time they worked on the album, the two grew very close, and eventually developed a relationship with each other. The problem with this, of course, is that Aaliyah was 14 at the time, and Kelly knew this, as he met her when she was 12 years old, and had known about her prior to this, as she was the same Aaliyah mentioned in She's Got That Vibe, with her name being included in the song as a favour to her uncle. The media had suspected that there was secretly a romantic nature to their relationship, but each time the two were asked about it, they would always brush it off and say that they were, quote, just best friends.
Everybody seems to think that y'all are either girlfriend or boyfriend or cousins or let's just get the record straight.
Better go give me a white Jeep.
Well, no, we're not related at all. No, we're not. We're just very close. He's my best friend. No, in the whole wide world.
In the December 1994 issue of Vibe magazine, A marriage certificate was published showing that Kelly and Aaliyah had gotten married in Cook County, Illinois on September 6th of that year. The certificate states that Aaliyah was 18 years old, when she was actually 15 at the time. Kelly had apparently bribed someone to change her ID to say that she was 18, and this happened behind her parents' back. The marriage would be annulled in February 1995. For whatever reason, people directed all the blame to Aaliyah, rather than the 27-year-old man who got her to marry him, believing that she had lied to him about her age. It wouldn't be until 2019, almost 20 years after Aaliyah's tragic death in a plane crash, that he would finally admit to have knowingly engaged in sexual acts with a minor. The controversy did seemingly nothing to Kelly's career. His self-titled follow-up to 12 Play made it all the way to number 1 and spawned 3 number 1 singles. 1996, of course, saw the release of what's probably his most iconic song, I Believe I Can Fly, from the Space Jam soundtrack. His third album, R, would hit number 2 on the top 100 and spawned the number 1 hit single, I'm Your Angel, which was a duet with Celine Dion. And the year 2000 would see the release of 12 Play 2, which would be his second number 1 album. All in all, it seemed like nothing could stop the Pied Piper of R&B's momentum. Yes, that's really what he called himself. In 2002, however, Kelly would find himself wrapped up in his first big controversy. A video had begun circulating that showed him engaging in obscene acts with an underage girl. While this was once again brushed off by Kelly's fans, this time he would not escape so easily, and was arrested for producing CP that year. He would plead not guilty and was released on bail, before being arrested again in 2003, once again for producing CP. Just like last time, this did seemingly nothing to damage his career, as his next album, Chocolate Factory, sold over 500,000 copies in its first week, and became his third number 1 album. And of course, he would release his magnum opus, Trapped in the Closet, in 2005.
Quick, put me in the closet.
When Kelly finally went to trial over the CP charges in 2008, his victim refused to testify, leaving the jury no choice but to find him not guilty. Once again, he escaped any kind of punishment. He had apparently paid the girl's family a $2 million bribe to keep quiet and not testify against him. In 2017, Kelly would once again find himself accused of assault when 3 sets of parents came forward and accused him of running a sex cult, which he had brainwashed their daughters into joining. Naturally, Kelly denied these accusations, and it seemed that he once again would escape any kind of punishment. It was at this point that a movement started called Mute R. Kelly. Originally started in Atlanta, Georgia, to have one of his concerts cancelled there. The movement soon spread across the world, with its members protesting outside his recording studios and concert venues, and also calling into radio stations imploring them not to play his music. This would be the start of his downfall, and in 2019, his world would finally come crashing down when Lifetime released its Surviving R. Kelly documentary series. While the first 3 episodes discussed details the public were already aware of, the final 2 would prove to be particularly shocking, as his victims went into detail about the abuse they suffered at his hands, with most of these victims having been among those who were forced into joining his cult. All of the stories focused on the physical and mental abuse Kelly would put them through so he could control them. He finally began facing backlash as radio stations stopped playing his music, streaming services would no longer recommend his music to anyone, and he was dropped from his record labels. Karma was finally beginning to catch up with him. After the documentary was released, Kelly gave his infamous interview with Gayle King. I'm sure you've all seen the memes from it, but this was Kelly's attempt to try and deny any of the allegations against him and get the public back on his side.
I didn't do this stuff. This is not me. I'm fighting for my life. Y'all killing me with this. I can't help 30 years of my career.
Robert.
30 years of my career. Y'all trying to kill me. You're killing me, man. This is not about music. I'm trying to have a relationship with my kids, and I can't do it. Y'all just don't want to believe the truth. You don't want to believe it.
Unfortunately for him, his luck had finally run out. He would be arrested a month later and charged with 10 counts of assault. Several months later, he would be arrested again, this time for racketeering and human trafficking over state lines. He would go to trial in 2021. 10 victims came forward to testify against him. Former employees would also give their testimony, as well as many government witnesses. Many pieces of damning evidence would also be used against him. The full details of his marriage to Aaliyah were finally brought to light, with him revealing that he married her because he believed that she was pregnant, thus confirming that he had indeed engaged in acts with an underage girl. At the end of the trial, he was found guilty of racketeering, sexual exploitation of a child, bribery, sex trafficking, and violation of the Mann Act. A year later, he was found guilty of enticing a child and producing CP, and was sentenced to 30 years in prison. With this, Robert Kelly's reign of terror finally came to an end. His victims were able to stand before a court of law and speak directly to him, condemning him for all the pain and suffering he had put them through. As of this video, he's currently facing more charges in Chicago and Minnesota. Considering he's now 55 years old, it's likely that he will never leave prison alive. While he may be one of the most successful R&B artists of all time, his legacy is forever tarnished by his horrific and depraved actions, making him one of the most infamous and hated sexual predators in music history, right up there with the likes of Gary Glitter and Ian Watkins. From now on, whenever someone hears the name R. Kelly, they will not think of the singer-songwriter Pied Piper of R&B, but the cruel and disgusting monster that he had been behind the scenes for over 30 years. He may be behind bars now, but his victims will live with the memories of his abuse for the rest of their lives. And that's the end of the video, folks. I'm really sorry this one took so damn long. This was because of a combination of me getting sick, always being really tired for some strange reason, and just generally having trouble finding some motivation to edit on some days. That being said, there's really no excuse for a video